Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my workbench, such as it is, small and tiny. And welcome to the new year, January of 2021. It'll bring us all new things. So, word has gotten out that that I know something about electronics, and a few more G3s have landed in my lap. These particular G3s, the owner states that the LEDs don't work or can't get them to work. And it occurred to me that as more and more people figure out that I'm willing to help them fix their trains, that more of these are going to show up. And when I fix the first, fixing the H bridge, that's pretty straightforward, right? It's a couple of big fat MOSFETs. Generally, people put foam on these things or something like that to obscure the heat dissipation qualities, and they burn up. Similarly, the LEDs are driven by these little MOSFET 2-packs here stuck on the back of the board. They're all interfaced with this header right here. So when I was handed these, and it's like, hey, the LEDs don't work, and I was thinking about the problem. It's like, okay, how do I easily verify that these work or don't work, and how do I hold them so that I can put the scope on them and look at signals, figure out what is or is not working or happening. The end result of that was I made this little test jig here. It's not particularly complicated. It certainly didn't warrant the several months I invested in putting it together. 3 or 4 minutes at a time, I should say. This is ultimately super simple. There is literally... Okay, brief interruption. I said this little jig board I created was straight out of the manual. And so what that means is it's super simple. There's nothing there but a motor and 9 LEDs. An Airwire controller manages lighting effects through a configuration called common anode. Let's see if I can... Common anode. And you say, what does that mean? When you look at an LED, it's pretty straightforward about how it works. The symbol is like this, that of a diode, with photons erupting from it. Looking at this, the electrons flow against the arrow in this direction from negative to positive. Easy way to figure this out on your average LED. Your average LED has a shape that is not round. There are 2 leads. One is longer than the other one, and one is located by a flat spot. The long LED, here we go, I'm going to look at one. The long LED is generally the positive one from the factory, the anode. And you can figure that out by this A shape on the diagram. That side of the diode is the anode. The cathode is the negative side. It can be remembered by this backwards K, or if you turn the diode around, it's the right side K, but at any rate, the K shape is the cathode side. Electrons will flow freely from the cathode to the anode, but not from the anode to the cathode. It's the little arrow up against the wall, and therefore can't get through. When you look in an LED, there's also a little flat spot on the side of the case, and it can be hard to see, although we just saw that LED roll and stop on the flat side. The flat side is the cathode side. This is the negative side right here. It is from the factory, the shorter lead. Now sometimes you'll find that somebody's cut the leads and so they're even length. You can still depend on that little molding on the side of the LED to tell you how it works. And so we'll just try my little tester here. 10 mA is plenty enough to blind me. Long lead in the top where the positive is, press the button, it lights up. Voila. So getting back to the Airwire controller, it is a common anode configuration, which means all of these LEDs I wired up in this little control device are simply run to one side. The very top pin is your battery connection, essentially 14 volts or something like that, to 14 to 24 volts. And the anode side, the cathode side, goes to a MOSFET essentially. that would have the signal to turn this thing on or off. Okay, this is just like old-timey cars, right? Where all your headlights and stuff are all wired up to the positive side of the battery, and to make anything work, you shorted it to ground. You turn this switch on, the ground connection is established, the plus side is already made, voila, we have light. Don't forget the load resistor, or current limiting resistor, that's expressly talked about in the manual. But for all intents and purposes, we need to know how to hook up these LEDs. And it's fairly simple. You just have to pay attention to this polarity, and knowing how to quickly and easily identify the anode and the cathode, hook all the anodes together, and run just the cathodes to the outputs of the board. Yeah, oops, I'm sorry, on the frame to the outputs of the board is appropriate. Okay, so that's enough of that for right now. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Voltage meter I found laying on my shelf someplace. It is set up exactly per the manual instructions that come with a G3 and G4. As a matter of fact, this should work with a G4 as well. I think the pinout is identical on the little header. Why did I make this little thing? Well, it becomes incredibly easy to test a G3 or G4 decoder using this device. The headers simply slip in to the associated header. Sorry, losing my words. Hello. And let's just test it. What the heck? So we insert the headers, the nice fixed headers, into this. Screw everything down. Lots of screwing going on here because there's just lots of screws. While we're doing this, we'll talk about what has to happen. So the first thing, after getting this thing attached, we're going to want to, and this is just standard procedure, reset the board to factory defaults. I've seen some pretty odd behavior coming out of some of these things, including these two boards, which my friend at the club, I've been doing lots of volunteer. COVID has been driving me to volunteer for my train club a lot, which is hard because I can't actually go see the people in the train club, at least not easily. Fear. At any rate, so ta-da! There we have it. All hooked up and ready to fool around with. Simply plug in a battery. We'll try that right here. Here's a battery. Plug it in. Oops, plug it in. There we go, plug it in. I also made myself a little cheat sheet. By default, you can't make all the LED drivers come on. You have to do some programming. You just have to. And, oh, here we go, cheat sheet in the frame, thank you. So the very first thing is, let's just turn it on and see it works. We're going to assume that you've worked your way through frequencies and addressing. Again, factory defaults help you with that. So I turn our throttle on, it says hello, and now we should just be able to turn on this G3, chink. Okay, green light indicating power, red light indicating that we have valid carrier. It's kind of barely showing up here. A quick test is to hit the 0 key and the headlights come on. Headlights and the ditch lights, that is the default. But nothing else comes on. You turn the headlights on and off. But we need to figure out all the rest of this, including a test of the smoke detector. You probably notice I got a little motor here. Good way to test to see that the motor works. And I can reverse it and motor turns yet. Well, my motor doesn't like going backwards. That was just, all of this is built off of little stuff I just had laying on my shelf. This is, crammed up components. So, our intent here is to test all the LEDs, and that's fairly straightforward. So, I'm going to run through exactly what the cheat sheet says here, which is, first of all, we're going to set it to factory defaults just to make sure. Always, always, always factory defaults just to be sure. To do this, we use ops mode, and we do CV8, and we enter the value of 135. This is custom to the Airwire stuff. 135. And beep. Alright. So now, in theory, the G3 has been reset to its factory default. So the factory address, factory frequency, everything. I'm going to turn it off. we're going to turn it back on. So now we're assured that it's as we would get it from CVV products, ready to go and install in our train. But I want to ensure that all the LED drivers aren't blown up like the H-bridge was. So we're going to go through a little list here of CVs that assign the elite LEDs to a button, assign the smoke switch, it's a separate MOSFET that powers the smoke generator, to a button, and we're going to set the ditch light triggers to a button as well so that we can see that it's, you know, awake and intelligent, let's put it that way. And so the way we do that is we just start off with a bunch of CVs. So again, ops mode 0, CV37 is the first one. That represents the F3 button. And we hit enter, and we're going to put a value of 3, which says turn on Elite Effect 1. And I haven't set that to any special effect, it's just going to turn on or off. You can play with effects later if you want. Okay, so then 38 becomes 4, 39 becomes 5, 40 becomes 6, 41, enter, 41, which is F8, or the F7 button, becomes the smoke switch. That's the value of 2. And then CV42, the last one, we enter 15. That says trigger the ditch lights back and forth. Think. Okay, I'm going to escape out of that. We're back to controlling. And now we're ready to test. And so here we go. We've got the board. The other good thing about the board is that I can flip it over and apply scope probes to the back and whatnot. Yeah, at any rate. Okay, so here we go. We've got motor. We have headlights that reverse with the motor. We can turn on, let's turn the motor down, Elite Effect 1, Elite Effect 2, you can see the lights lighting up there on the board, sort of, Elite Effect 3, Elite Effect 4. Okay, we got almost all the lights on. Now we're going to turn on the smoke generator, which should light a red LED. There we go. All the red LED is lit. And we're going to flash the ditch lights. Are we listening and doing intelligent stuff with the ditch lights? And so there's flashing ditch lights. And motor goes. And you know, there's no sound testing or anything. That's a completely different function by a different card sent by different codes. The function keys I am programming are totally incompatible with any sound card. This is purely for testing purposes. But what we see here is this that really small motor is not designed for 17 volts. What we've seen here though is everything is working as advertised. I'm going to slowly go through and turn off the Elite effects. If we sat here for a minute and a half, the smoke detector would go, the smoke switch would turn off on its own. That's hard-coded into the firmware of a G3. I understand a G4, they've turned that into a soft register that you can set the time that the smoke generator runs. I personally am kind of irritated at the 90-minute thing. I put giant batteries in my locomotive and would like the smoke to run, well, till the battery runs out, what the heck. And so it's good to see they fixed that with the G4 stuff. We're going to turn the headlight off, and we're going to turn the smoke off. And that essentially is it. So now, before I hand this back to its owner saying, hey, I can't find anything wrong with this, or I fixed it, we'll use those words interchangeably, we're going to again set it back to the factory defaults. We're going to undo the programming in which I've set these elite side LEDs to operate on. So once again, we go back to ops mode and CV8, enter, and 1, 3, 5. It's going to beep at us. Beep! We escape out of all of this, and F3 doesn't do anything. F4 doesn't do anything. Headlights still work, that's the default. Can't do the trigger, yeah, at any rate. So all that programming is gone and flushed out. Again, the board is set up, ready to be installed in the locomotive and programmed by the owner. So we're going to turn this one off, and so this is where the joy of the jig comes in. You know, if I could have just kind of made some kind of bundle of wire here and hooked it all up to test one board, but I really want to be able to test multiple boards quickly and easily, because as people figure this out, I'm probably gonna see more of these things. And so swapping this over to another board is quite simple. It's just drive the lovely little electric screwdriver for a while and a while. And it's all loose, comes apart. It's kind of hunky here with this. I just used a glob of hot melt glue to hold all this in place. So there's set to factory defaults, ready to go, ready to be installed. And so now let's test another one. These are slightly different generations, and yeah, slightly different generations, but identical functionality. I should say that. Oops. You're probably all seeing how well my hands work after my middle finger's been broken. Okay, and back on. Come on. All this. Okay, now that we've got the other board attached, quickly and easily I might add, we can turn it on. And in this case we can see immediately green light for power, that appears functional. We have the red light for carrier detect happening here. And let's see, we should be able to just make the motor move, that's all great. Let's do exactly the same procedure. We are going to ops mode CV8 to 135 to the factory defaults, beep. Then we're going to walk through all the CVs that we need to turn the lights on. 37 starts the story off with a value of 3, enter, enter. 38, value of 4, enter. 39, value of 5, enter. 40, value of 6, enter. 41, value of 2, enter. 42, value of 15, enter. Escape. Okay, ready for the ultimate test. Again, this is a nice little board. We should be able to spin the motor. This motor spins. We should be able to turn the headlights on. Turn the headlights on. Headlights come on. If we reverse, tail light comes on, ditch lights and headlight go out, motor goes backwards. We'll go back to forward, motor off, let's fiddle with that. Function 3 should turn on Elite 1, function 4 should turn on Elite 2, function 5 should turn on Elite 3, Elite 3. Oh, I've seen this before, Elite 3. Turn that off. The Airwire stuff sometimes mixes up function keys, and I've seen this on all my stuff, and I see it on these test boards as well. I think it had something to do with my my transmitter, throttle is really close to the antenna, and it's really not designed to work right next to it. It needs a little bit of distance, so there could be some confusion going on here. But at any rate, okay, so moving on. 6 is Elite 4. 7 should turn on the smoke, which it does. 8 should turn on the ditch lights flashing, which it also does. We still have a motor. So in this race we've just proved that every LED driver is working. The H-bridge to move the motor is working. We could also, it's kind of outside of the scope of this question, I've got a nice ground connection on this jig, so I can hook up my oscilloscope quickly and easily. Oscilloscope, ground, and I can use it to see stuff that you can't see in the frame, which is I can look at the DCC output and tell that we're getting DCC commands set up. And I have done that. These boards are ready. They are done. Oops, turn that down. Okay, so Yeah, I'm not going to say my name. Oh, okay. So I do volunteer for the Rose City Garden Railway Society. If somebody within my club has a broken G3, well, there's two of them right here, or were. Feel free to contact me. Alrighty, that's all for today. Have a very nice day.